Shalom, giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect worldwide. I have another edition of GMS News and Prophecy. I have an article here from northeastern.edu, um, and it's entitled "Should We Be Worried About the Plague?" All right, it's dated August 12, 2015. About a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. But I came across this article, and as you can see by the image, it's dealing with the plague, different diseases, flus, pandemics. Um, dealing with the well-being and the health of the people. All right. So in the article it reads, California's Department of Public Health and Yosemite National Park announced last week that a child contracted the plague after visiting the park in July. Now I believe this plague that it's talking about here is the pneumonic plague. Okay. It says the case was the third in the U.S. to be reported in recent months. While the child in California is recovering, two people in Colorado died from the disease earlier this summer. Now, you didn't hear about this in the mainstream news, um, in the media like CNN or Fox or any other of these fluff news channels here in America. Um, you know, you didn't hear about the plague actually killing people here in America. Okay, but nevertheless, it's happening. Okay, so it says though the plague is not new to the U.S., reportedly arriving in 1900, it is rare. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, on average, several human plague cases are reported in the U.S. each year. Now you don't hear about that. You don't hear about that. That's not breaking news uh, um, on primetime TV or any one of these news stations. You know, they might mention it once, maybe twice, every so often. Well, not even every so often. You really don't hear about it, okay? Until you actually go into these different articles and they so happen to pop up. All right. It's it's not just so-called rare for people to get it, as they say. It's rare news. But according to scripture and according to prophecy, there's going to be all kinds of diseases being um, spread amongst the people. Right. One of the main diseases that the people are going to be infected with, right, which has made big news in recent months, is the Ebola. Okay, the Ebola virus. You got Ebola. Um, I hear AIDS is spreading again. Um, Measles. Okay, and now this plague. Okay, so there are different cases of the plague being spread out here. It says here, it says, with the plague's recent return to the news, we took a look at some myths and truths about the centuries-old disease and spoke with statistical physicist Alessandro Vesbignani, the Stenberg Distinguished Professor of Physics, Computer Science, and Health Sciences at Northeastern. All right. It says the plague is generally transmitted through human-to-human contact. This is the myth. According to the World Health Organization, the plague is an infectious disease by bacteria, Yersinia pestis, that is usually found in small animals and their fleas. The disease is transmitted by the bite of infected fleas or less frequently through direct contact with infected animals such as rats or squirrels. Human to human transmission typically requires direct contact with the person with pneumonic plague. Such a case has not been documented in the U.S. since 1924. Right? It says by the expert, direct contact with infected animals or humans, and more rarely, aerosol inhalation or the consuming of contaminated food or other routes of transmission. In areas where plague is endemic in the animal population, it is good to avoid small rodents, avoid contact with potentially infected animals, and use flea control products. So there's more ways that this this plague can spread. Okay, um, l- let's go to this one because I'm gonna skip around a little bit. It says the plague is untreatable and often results in death. For centuries, this was the case, but with modern medicine, the plague, though a very serious illness, is treatable with commonly available antibiotics. According to the CDC, in the pre-antibiotic era, mortality resulting from the plague in the U.S. was 66%. By 2010, that rate decreased to 11%. For centuries, the plague caused widespread panic and remarkable mortality rates. There have been three recorded plague pandemics, and it's going to name the main ones, from the Justinian plague in the early Middle Ages to the Black Death or Great Plague that swept across Asia, Europe, and Africa, beginning in the 1300s. Now, most brothers um, and most people that understand history, they know about mainly the Black Death, which that killed 2/3 of the population in Europe and other places at that time when the so-called black man was ruling around the 1300s. Okay, which is that's what after that that's when you started seeing the so-called white man mainly through Ottoman Turks and coming out of the Caucasus Mountains and becoming prominent leaders underneath the blacks. They became rulers through the Renaissance, and the so-called white man came into power, and then you had the so-called Atlantic slave trade, and then you have the modern world today. When you look at history, but the Black Death um, was mainly when the blacks in Europe that were ruling at the time, a lot of them in that population died. Okay, um, and that was prophecy. Okay, it's all in the scriptures. Okay, and I'm gonna read them. But first, I'm gonna get into a little bit more of this article. But that was just a little history to so you can understand um, what it's saying here. It says the Black Death or the Great Plague that swept across Asia, Europe, and Africa, beginning in the 1300s, to the modern plague that spread to port cities around the world in the late 1800s and early 1900s. It says if diagnosed early enough, the plague is treatable with antibiotics. This is obviously a game changer with respect to what happened during the Great Plague, where no cure or no understanding of the transmission mechanism were available. It says Vespignani on the potential for another pandemic, and that's what's going to happen. Another pandemic it is going to happen. Okay, pursuant to the scriptures and pursuant to the will of Yahweh Shem Shai. All right, through whatever disease, whether it be the pneumonic plague or the Ebola virus or measles or the chikungunya virus or whatever virus that these elites, because really the elites and the CDC, they're really the ones controlling these viruses and pushing these diseases out here. Okay, but there is going to be a pandemic, a pandemic. These different plagues are going to kill most of the population of the people. It says in 2013 there were little less than 800 cases of plague worldwide. Plague epidemics are still possible where the plague is endemic in an animal reservoir. However, the modern knowledge of the disease prevention strategy and the availability of antibiotics make large outbreaks extremely unlikely, right? Unless it's controlled to spread, right? It says epidemics have occurred in Africa, Asia, and South America, but since the 1990s, most human cases have occurred in Africa because they test these diseases on the so-called Africans over there and blacks over there, them Hamites over there in Africa, and then they test certain cases over here in America because they really want to kill off the Israelites. That's why it says South America, Africa, okay, because they want to kill you Negroes and you Latino, Hispanic, and Native Indian tribes, okay. It says in 2013 there were 783 cases reported worldwide, including 126 deaths. And the three most endemic countries are Madagascar, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Peru. And all these places have populations of Israelites living there. Okay. Um, Now it mentioned about this summer there was a child that was um, that had contracted the plague at a park this year in July, and that's also what happened, I believe, last year. A child had went to in California. He had went to one of the Disney parks, and he had got measles. And now you have this big uproar in the news about mandatory vaccines, mainly over there in California and probably other Western states. But slowly in the news, they're telling you about these diseases and they're trying to push these vaccines. But I just want to get into this child that had contracted the disease. So this is from the NewYorkTimes.com website. It says health officials, child camping in Yosemite contracts the plague. It says California officials say a child camping in Yosemite National Park fell ill with plague and was sent to a hospital. The state's Department of Public Health said Thursday that the family from Los Angeles County camped at Yosemite's Crane Flat campground in mid-July and visited other places in the Stanislaus National Forest. No other family members became sick, and the child is recovering. Right, and this was dated August 6, 2015. So within the past couple weeks, it says plague is carried by rodents such as squirrels and spread when fleas carry the disease from a dead rodent to other animals or people. Officials say it is not transmitted between humans except in rare cases. Plague can be fatal if left untreated. Now, there was a lot of reports about the Ebola virus supposedly going airborne, and I believe in places like Canada and other places worldwide. So it was, scaring a lot of the people to want to take these vaccines. And that's basically what the CDC and these leaders are going to do. They're going to make sure that these plagues and these different diseases are spread at a rapid rate, whether they have to make it airborne or it's human to human or yo, when these people start getting killed and martial law is declared and people do start getting these diseases and the population start dwindling, a lot of these dead bodies and there's going to be a lot more rat infestations and flies and fleas and things. These diseases are going to spread to those people that's alive, and it's going to be just like in that movie The Crazies. Okay? Yeah, 28 days later, 28 weeks later, about a plague in the UK. All right? A lot of these movies they push these things out, so you got to be aware and you got to think on these things. Right? It says symptoms include fever, chills, nausea, and swollen lymph nodes, which you may think you have the flu, but then you have the plague, and then in a couple of days you're dead. Right? It says since 1970, 42 people in California have contracted plague, resulting in 9 deaths. Now it really doesn't say. It had mentioned in the previous article. It mentioned the pneumonic plague, but it just says plague. It doesn't really say what plague or what disease. So it they can make up a disease and say you have it and diagnose you with it, and you know that be your life, and then that's just another avenue for them to push the mark of the beast, the RFID chip. So these devils, they're slowly pushing their agenda. So I want to end on this scripture. I'm gonna go to the Apocrypha, the the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, and I'm just going to get into the prophecy of these different plays and these things happening. Um, and this is what the Most High Yahweh Shai says. Um, in fact, I'm going to start at verse 7. It says, "Therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves." And this is speaking about starting with the wicked elite of Esau in the world, and then the rest of you wicked people, the 2/3 of Jake on the planet. Okay. It says, "Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually." And myself, I'm doing this video. Other brothers, we complain continually about the things that the white man is doing. How you Israelites are not turning back to your nationality as being Israelite, the so-called Black Hispanics and Native Americans, and then cuss out you heathen, man. All right. So the Most High said He's not going to hold His tongue no more as touching the wickedness that you do. All right. So this is verse 9. And therefore saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them, which is speaking about the elect, those that complain, the prophets and the righteous men and the 1/3 of the Lord, and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them, and also those Israelites that the so-called white man has slain, okay, in this land here in America. It says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. And part of that slaughtering the Lord's people as his flock is these diseases and these plagues. All right. So it says, I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. And that's America. That represents America, because America is the new Egypt. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues. And when you read about the 10 plagues that the Most High brought to ancient Egypt, that including certain diseases, you had the boils, okay, um, which was a major disease in Egypt that killed the cattle and the different children and people in ancient Egypt during the time of Moses. So the Most High say He's going to smite Egypt again. It says as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. All the land of ancient Egypt wasn't destroyed. So that's how we know that it's talking about America. Verse 12. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So that's what's coming. Okay? That's what's coming. The plague is coming. These diseases and these different things is coming to destroy America. Ultimately, the ultimate plague is going to be thermonuclear destruction by intercontinental ballistic missiles via Iran, Russia, North Korea, China, and all these other countries. Even America's allies is going to turn on America and destroy this place. All right. Um, so the question in this article that says, should we be worried about the plague? The answer is yes, according to Scripture and according to prophecy. So with that, I hope you all were edified. And give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone. And peace and blessings to the elect. Um, Lord willing, I see you on the next edition of GMS News and Prophecy. Shalom.